What an icon in the making this car is. When you think of sports sedans, you probably think of the Germans. You think of M, AMG, Audi, maybe even Porsche. But what if I told you that the best sports sedan ever made didn't wear any of those badges? In fact, it wasn't even from Germany. What if I told you that this sedan was made under the influence of one of the biggest names in the business, and not the sedan business, but the supercar business? Enter the Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTS. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would you pick a Maserati as the best sports sedan of all time when you have cars like the M5 and the E63, cars that are so subtle and subdued but deliver supercar killer performance, and especially when Maseratis sort of have the reputation of being owned by people who think they're, well, those. And of course, those are all very valid critiques of Maserati as a brand. After Chrysler took over, they very much nosedived the brand into making the cars more affordable, and they just sort of didn't do a good job of it. The cars were very horribly built, way overpriced, and you could often see deals as low as $299 a month for Ghiblis, brand new Ghiblis, at Maserati dealerships all over the country. But this car doesn't come from that era. This comes from the era before the Chrysler era. This is the Ferrari era. This is when Maserati was much more experimental in their cars. This is when Maserati was fighting for championships in GT1 with the MC12. And of course, Ferrari had all the influence over a lot of what Maserati did, and especially in this car. And while we're on the subject of Ferrari, the former CEO, Luca de Montezemolo, said that the reason for this car's existing was so that Italian executives weren't driving around in measly German sedans. He wanted them to drive Italian and ultimately drive cars under his influence, which, well, this one certainly was. In front, you have the F136 4.7 liter V8, sort of a derivative of the engine you find in the Ferrari 430, but this is a cross-plane version rather than the flat-plane crank, delivering power to the rear wheels, 440 horsepower in fact, exclusive for the GTS model. And the power is sent to the rear wheels by a 6-speed ZF gearbox, which is actually quite good, as you will see later on today. And exclusive to the GTS is Bilstein single-rate dampers that replace a rather unreliable Skyhook adaptive suspension system on earlier Quattroportes. That was a very common problem back in the day, but this is a very good system that really helps the car through the corners and makes it feel very, very nice. One thing I absolutely love about most sports sedans is that they're very much an if you know sort of car. There's not much that denotes them from lesser models, say for instance, a 530i versus an M5. And this is very much the case with the Quattroporte because there are very, very few telltale giveaways that denote it as a GTS rather than something like an S. But one very apparent one is the exhaust tips. These oval tips are exclusive to the Sport GTS. Other models get quad tips like the Quattroporte S. And the wheels are somewhat exclusive to the GTS. They were later available on the Quattroporte S as a sport package. But another thing, two things as a matter of fact, that really denote the GTS is the concave grille here. Other models get the convex grille, as well as the red stripes in the Maserati Trident. That is something you will only find on a GTS. And of course, the styling of this car is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, from all angles, it is absolutely sensational. And that is because, continuing on with the Ferrari theme, the Quattroporte was styled by the best design house in the business, Pininfarina. And the art continues in the interior because this interior I actually really love. It is a great blend of leather, Alcantara, and of course carbon fiber. Like the steering wheel, this one actually isn't from factory. This is a custom wheel that replaces the OEM Alcantara wheel. But other than that, and the aftermarket head unit here, this entire interior is bone stock as you get it. And there's a lot of carbon in here. Maserati did a lot to make this interior just feel very special. And I particularly love these paddles, exclusive to the GTS. They just feel very nice, and well, I get to experience that in a little bit. And also in the interior is the Sport GTS badge, denoting it as a Sport GTS if the carbon didn't give it away. And of course, the best part of the Quattroporte, the pièce de résistance of the car, is of course the Ferrari V8 and the noise it creates, as I'm about to demonstrate. Oh, that is good. Gonna take it for a short drive right now, so let's jump in. Keeping it in manual mode because, well, manual mode is just the absolute best in this car. You really don't want to do anything else. For being a somewhat Ferrari-powered, essentially a GT car, It is very quiet, even in sport mode when you're not really getting on it, which is something I greatly appreciate. You don't want to be too antisocial, but if you do kick it down in a first, it sounds oh so nice. Woo-hoo! That's just a precursor for what's to come, because what a noise! It's got like a deep baritone roar to it, but it also kind of sings tenor in a way, which it is a noise that is very much unique to the Maserati brand, to all of these cars of the past, these Ferrari-derived cross-plane V8s, and I honestly think this is one of the best sounding V8s of all time, because even from the cabin, there's so much soul to it. It's unlike anything that is built today, and I guess that is for a reason, with ever-changing emissions regulations and companies starting to shift over towards EV. You can't build cars like this anymore, which is sort of the magic of these 15 to 20-year-old sports sedans like this, the E60 M5, even some of the AMG cars as well, either naturally aspirated or the supercharged ones, is you can't get this anymore. And that's very much the appeal. And that's why I like this car a lot, amongst other reasons. And I've got a Tesla alongside me, so that's a perfect excuse to just roll into it. That will never get old. I could literally just do a video of accelerations and it would probably be better than all of the things I'm saying. But I want to say a couple more things, because this car is extremely rare. Only 1,861 of these made for the world, not for the US, for the world. And as of right now, there are none for sale. Like, you can't find these cars anymore. Not on Auto Trader, not Auto Tempest, and rarely on Bring a Trailer. This particular one will be on Bring a Trailer, so if you are interested in a GTS, and why wouldn't you be? Bid on this car. And of course, the impact of this car is indelible. I have been lusting after this for several years, which originated from Top Gear Season 15, Episode 3, when Clarkson, Hammond and May duked out the GTS against the Panamera Turbo S and the Aston Martin Rapide, two very big names in the business. Of course, the Panamera went on to be a tremendous success, and the Rapide sort of fell into obscurity in a way. And this sort of lived in infamy as the car that just sounded fantastic on that show. I remember watching that episode for the first time as a kid and absolutely immediately falling in love with the noise. I looked for any clip online of the GTSs just doing their thing, making noises, and there weren't many clips out there. But as time continues, as people start to rediscover these cars, it's only inevitable that one day these will be a hot collector's item. I love this car. And like I said before, it's just because it's a very loud bruiser doesn't mean it can be a quiet cruiser as well. It is very much a car with two split personalities, and that's not a bad thing, because it is all cars for all moods. When you need it to be just a normal, civilized car, it can be. And it can happily do that job very well. You're not really compromising anything with it being a very loud bruiser. And the great thing about that is, well, obviously you don't need to be a nuisance all the time, but you can be a nuisance when you want to be a nuisance. And being a car guy, being a petrol head, and loving naturally aspirated loud engines that rev stupid high, who doesn't want to be a nuisance? And I think the Quattroporte is the perfect sedan for that role. Between the noise, between the driving experience, between everything, I mean, this is a future classic in the making. This car will be worth a tremendous amount of money one day. So if you're looking for a future classic, a car that you will absolutely adore any step of the way, that can make you smile on any grim day, well, welcome to the Quattroporte, particularly the Sport GTS. And that wraps up my review of the Quattroporte Sport GTS. I mean, what an icon in the making this car is. I know we throw around terms like future classic and future collectible, and soon this car will be worth so much money, but this is one I genuinely believe in. I believe in the future of this car, and slowly but surely enthusiasts are warming up to this car in terms of a collectability standpoint, but also a drivability standpoint, because these cars, contrary to popular belief, are a lot more reliable than you'd expect. And well, I mean, what's not to like then? If it's reliable, good looking, great sounding, great driving, I mean, what's not to like? But if you did enjoy this video today, guys, remember to like and subscribe. And if these are the types of cars you like to see on the channel, I mean, I like to see Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTSs on the channel personally. I'd like to own one day. Please consider subscribing because it helps me out a whole bunch. And now there's a bee attacking me. But until next time, guys, this was me, Patrick, the king of cars, not getting attacked by a bee. Thank you for watching. Take care. No train horn.
When the train horn is fucking touching the stove. No train horn, no.
That
sucks.
Why?